Lesson 2, Unit 8, Risk Management. Risk management deals with the processes concerned with identification, analysis, assessment, control, minimization, or even elimination of unacceptable risks. The ultimate goal of risk management is the preservation of the physical and human assets of the project for the successful continuation of its operation. These are the 4 steps for risk management. Risk planning involves identification, quantification of all risks, and development of a risk management plan. Risk monitoring and response includes activities to mitigate, avoid, transfer, monitor, and respond to risk events. Risk evaluation involves evaluation of the response to the risk taken by the project team. Risk plan improvement. These are the actions to improve the risk management plan and response strategies. Here's a chart that shows the relationship between probability and impact of a risk during the life of the project. The probability of a risk is high at the beginning, but it goes down by the time you close the project. Probability is dependent on time. The longer the time, the more probability that an event might happen. The impact of a risk goes the other way. It increases as you get closer to the end of the project. That means that if something happens to the project before it closes, you might have a higher impact because you have already made a lot of investments and spent money on the project, but there is very little time and resources for you to make changes. Here's the risk management matrix that you can use to plan and monitor risk on your project. You first begin by identifying all risk with a sequential number. The type of risk could be results, schedule, quality, or even budget. Then is the description of the risk. It's a statement that describes the event that might cause a problem to the project. Note the use of the word may, as it indicates a probability and not a fact. Then the description of the impact includes the problems to the project if the risk occurs. This can be caused by identifying solutions to minimize or avoid the risk. Then you need to describe the impact of the project. It can be an increase in cost, delays, or quality problems to the project. For each risk, you need to identify the level of impact and probability. For example, you can use a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is low and 5 is high. The last column is the risk composite index. This is the multiplication between the impact and probability. For risk 01, the composite index will be 5 times 4, which is equal to 20. That number helps you organize and prioritize all the risks on your project. Here's a chart that shows you the relationship between the composite index and the strategies to manage your risk. This is also called the risk heat map. Those risks that have a composite index levels of 20 and above have high priority due to its high impact and probability and are assigned a red color. This chart will help you identify the color for each risk. In this example, the colors range from red, orange, yellow, and green. For each color corresponds a different risk management strategy. This is the table that shows you the 4 strategies to manage risk. The strategy for the first group is avoidance. You need to take immediate action and avoid the risk. This can be done by changing the schedule or changing the scope. The second group, the strategy is to mitigate. This means to take actions to reduce the impact of the project. For example, you can take some preventive actions or develop contingency plans to help you manage that risk. The third one is to transfer the risk to another party. For example, hiring a consultant who can do the work and assume the risk. The last strategy is to accept. It means that the time and cost to avoid or reduce the impact of the risk are higher than the impact it will have on the project. So in many cases, it's better to take the risk. For example, if the risk can cause a delay of 1 or 2 days, that's the type of impact you can't afford in your project. Here are some recommendations for risk management. Risk change over time. That is important to remember. Levels of probability and impact change over the life of the project. Make a habit to review the risk matrix on a regular basis. As more information is available, the risk levels can be modified. Identify the cost of risk. You need to estimate the cost of implementing the strategies to manage risk and estimate the cost if a risk occurs. You need to have a budget reserved to respond to risk events. Identify internal and external risks. Internal risks usually occur within the project. These are events that you have more control. For example, risk of team turnover. The external risks from the external environment. These are events that you don't have control. For example, risk of cost increases due to inflation. Risk owners. Make sure that every risk in your matrix has an owner. You assign the responsibility to team members to manage the strategies to reduce the impact of the risk. They are also responsible for reporting on the progress and the status of the risks.